Hola, mis amigos y amigas. Greetings. How are you? I am taking a rest from a little 45-minute walk to the nearest small town to get some groceries, and now heading back to where I'm staying in northern Portugal. It's been on my intentions for several years to come here to Portugal and stay some months in different places to see. I've really been feeling drawn to it for several years, see if I'd like to stay here as a home base. So I've only been here for 9 days. So far I've been really enjoying it, partly because there's things like you see behind me or where I'm staying, like a 300-year-old home made of stone, this old church that's just on the path. I love these sorts of things. As I've been in different places and over these years, I've come very clear on how impactful an environment can be on my mood and my energy, my inspiration, my motivation, and living in all different places, living on the ocean, multiple oceans, growing up in the forests and near the forests and the lakes, being in Europe, being in Asia, being in Africa. When I go, I pay attention to what kind of things fill me up. And I've found some of those are green grass, trees, water, especially running fresh water, and old things. I really love being around old things. I find them, I don't know, there's something special about it. So, what a year it has been for me. 2021, whew, maybe that was my 2020, y'all, like so many people had. And my 2021, it was intense. Lots of incredible things, a lot more places than I expected, and I wasn't expecting to be on so many different continents and doing things like exploring Africa for my first times and whatnot. Lots of unexpected blessings and lots of real challenging times. And so first I want to acknowledge the incredible blessings, and I'm just so doggone grateful that right now I'm able to live this way and to be able to prioritize my personal growth and my physical and mental well-being and service to others, and explore places that when I was young I literally didn't even dream of, like we didn't take trips on planes or things like that, it was not part of our life. And so I'm really grateful to be able to live like this. I'm super blessed and and very grateful to myself, who, unbeknownst to me, created this life to be able to do it this way. I mean, it's awesome. And I want to just take a moment or two to acknowledge area that has been a big challenge in my life. Especially, it's been the greatest challenge of my adult life, and it's the greatest challenge that I'm experiencing right now, and that is sexual addiction. I could go back into all kinds of stories and share from early childhood on. Thankfully, no sexual abuse that I'm currently aware of, but exposure to really dark things on the internet in the early years, really dark, unhealthy things, and then years in college and after thinking, oh, my sexuality is really quite healthy. Like, I'm very open with myself and my partners. There's no judgment. I don't feel concerned if a woman is on her menstruation, or I don't treat others about their body and judge them. And I'm very open. I've got a very healthy sexuality. And that was kind of unconscious for a while, and it moved from first no sex, then in college began sex only in relationships, and then after some challenging experiences in relationships and military deployments and all of, things that we don't even need to go into, began moving more and more into casual, until probably around 2015-ish, I realized, like, whoa, this is out of control now, and it controls me. And now I'm in a relationship with a woman that I love, and I'm really struggling to be faithful, which is a big thing for me. And if I look in my history, so many friends, female friends, I have crossed the line with, mutually agreed upon, but ultimately bringing about damage, generally destroying our friendship, and bringing damage to them and to myself, and getting to a place where I was so just entrained of the continual dopamine hits from online dating and messaging with multiple women a day and going these places, pushing boundaries. And I've always been an explorer and an adventurer since I was a little kid, since I can remember. And so I went that with sexuality as well, which can be a real wonderful thing. I mean, sex can be a really beautiful and incredible thing, and I think it should be. Unfortunately, our culture doesn't do that with it. It hides it, and then right below the surface is like just lots of pathology and darkness, and throughout all of the perpetual conditioning from music, listen to Beatles songs, to listen to nowadays songs, to watch most any movie about relationships and sex, and it's like not the conditioning that I want to be ingesting, or my children to be, but most of that was unconscious. So yeah, at some point I realized I've got all of these dopamine hits that I'm so used to, and now I'm in a relationship, and that's just not normal or natural, not to mention all the conditioning that I got from pornography that is like omnipresent in Western culture. I'm not sure about others. And I feel so much for the children of this generation's onward, with how easy it is to access such really unhealthy things. And another example, I won't even go into that. But yeah, so much of that. So I had gotten to this place of really pushing limits with partners, going down darker and darker things, rough, dominating, these sorts of things, and thinking that it was all good because this is what they wanted to do, this is what I wanted to do. Gave huge rush, so strong of rush, just the whole body turn on and just feel it, heart beating, breath getting shallower, and all of these things. And then I was like, okay, this is an issue. So back then, I was not as, outside the box as far as how I was exploring life. So I went looking into like church groups and kind of traditional Western psychology, and there was some benefit. It was actually a pretty great church group that was pretty aware for where it's at around neuroscience and things like that. Not just saying, this is something that you're stuck with forever, which is, in our society, I've studied and I continue to study because of this addiction a lot, and I think that we have just such a backwards view of what addiction is, and it's really disempowering how we say, oh, you're doomed to this forever, this is in your DNA, you'll always be an alcoholic or whatever. I don't believe those things anymore, but back then I did, and I really felt really doomed and hopeless. And end of 2016 was my darkest time, just in life in general, and largely because of this feeling of hopelessness and this continuing to go into this place where ultimately I was harming myself and I was harming others. And so I said in 2017, when I was in the MBA in Spain, in the beginning of the year, we did like a class, and one of the exercises was, where do you think you'll be in 5 years? And I went about it like worst case scenario, best case scenario. And worst case scenario, I had to look at myself real clearly, and I was like, worst case scenario, like there's a good possibility that if I don't get a hold on this, the way that I'm living with sex, with the darkness, and with alcohol, that was like a mutual friend of it, then like there's a good possibility I'm gonna have killed myself or I'm gonna be in prison, because these places just don't go, these roads don't go good places when you keep going in that direction. And so that has been the impetus for a large amount of the journey that I've been on since, and the ways that I've been living since. And lots of great benefit has come from it, you know, like I began looking into neuroscience, looking into habits and research around it, and looking into how to build my day in this positive way, and looking into building relationships with myself so that I can heal the deep core woundings from which the desire to escape life and escape emotions via whatever addiction it is that we utilize in our life. You know, for me, throughout my adult life, it's been around sexuality. For others, it's around substances. For others, it's around work. For others, it's around anger. For others, it's around avoidance. For others, it's about binge watching. Others, it's about eating. Others, it's about the really subtle ones that seem like they're positive, like business success or learning or that sort of thing. But whatever thing it is that we're using, or I'm using, to avoid whatever thing that I've been feeling that like in my core is hurting. So lots of great benefit has come from that, and I'm incredibly grateful. So it's been about 5 years actually, coming probably around to the day that I did that course, or that class, and I have not killed myself, and I am not in prison. And instead, all kinds of wonderful things have occurred that I was never even expecting. And I experienced great healing with a lot of the sexual addiction. And there was a period basically from when I went to India for about 16 months till a couple months after I came back to the US last year, where sexuality was just, it wasn't even a part of my life. There was no cravings, there was no desires, there was no feelings of loss. The energy that normally went to the sexuality, even the natural, which, you know, anything that someone in the West, no offense, someone in the United States is telling me is natural, I question that strongly, because I think we're so far away from what is actually natural or healthy, and we're so in pathologies that, and so many people are doing it, that we believe that that's natural or whatever. But for 16 months it was just that energy, that sexual energy. If you're familiar with chakras or energy centers, that root energy, it is coming up and going into these higher level energies places. So massive growth, massive evolution in these 16 months with myself, with my spirituality, with my relationships, without this distraction of this stuff. And it was just incredible. And I was like, wow. A few years ago, I didn't think this was possible. I assumed, I believed the story that we're told about it, quote unquote addiction. This will be with you forever. This is always a battle I'm going to have, and that sort of thing. And I realized, man, I don't need to keep battling myself. That doesn't make any sense. I don't want to have a fight with myself, because then I'm always going to lose. I want to find out how I can work together with myself. And so if I've got this energy, how can I transmute it and work with it? And so I was able to do that. And also being in India with its deep spiritual container and support, and just being out of the places that I had the old patterns and stuff, it was very supportive of that. And then last year I went back to the United States, and I chose intentionally to stay in my childhood home and be in close quarters with family that I've had challenging relationships with, positive, but also often challenging. And in the place where those early patterns around sexuality, around escape, around the pain and sadness and hurt that we just experience going through life, being a child, experiencing divorce, being in high school, all those confusions and things. I knew it was going to be intense, but I wanted to step into that and also bring about healing and deeper bonding and growth with the relationships of my family. And it was very intense, and a lot of positive things came out of it and a lot of insights. And also I was super challenged for months last summer. And at some point around middle of last year, around June of last year, sexuality and the old escapist desires came up, and I was able to be with it in a lot more equanimous and accepting and gracious way. I wasn't feeling the guilt and the shame and really damning myself and feeling hopeless like I used to feel. And so I count that as a big win, because that's my ultimate main practice, is whenever I do anything, even if it's something that I know isn't what I want to do currently, how do I treat myself? Because again, I really want to have a close, positive relationship with myself. I want myself to feel comfortable and safe with myself so that we can handle these things together instead of damning and all of that. So that was great. That was positive. But either way, it was still there, and it was pretty intense, and it was just dark, and just all the things that I have experienced for years in the past that I know don't lead in the directions that I want to go, want to be a part of. And for a couple months, it was really intense, and then it has been on and off since. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Like, sometimes it's really interesting. It's really interesting to observe, because it's not even like this strong cravings and desires, and I know where it leads. And a lot of times I'll be right now, because I've been pretty strong with not connecting physically with other people. Just with one person that I'm close with. But otherwise, for the most part, it's like through online chat rooms or dating apps and messaging and sexting and that sort of thing, phone sex and this stuff. And again, just going, just pushing boundaries, going into these unhealthy places of fantasy or whatever. And sometimes it will be for hours, just hours. And I'm like, as I'm doing it, I'm observing myself, because now I have more of that capability and more sensitivity to what I'm doing. So it's not unconscious, and I'm observing it. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm not really enjoying it, but there's some deeper thing in here that I don't want to face. And I'm not yet sure what it is. I have some ideas. I have some ideas around, it being related perhaps to that big awareness that many of us experience probably multiple times through our life, that at some point or other it seems pretty clear that life is kind of pointless, and all the things that we're putting lots of effort into, even into spirituality and religion, like they're just kind of getting that value because we give them that value, but like we are literally a mote of dust that disappears, in the grand scheme of things. Or maybe, other things like that, deeper things that I can't really even describe on this, things that I've experienced fragments of in psychedelic journeys, or in deep meditation states, or in the dark room when I was in the dark room for 3 months in 2020, things like that, things that, new awarenesses that come that I'm not yet at a place to integrate and understand, because unfortunately in the West we don't have any traditions with the wise teachers who have gone before us sharing this stuff. Instead, we have like super unconscious conditioning from media and movies and things that's just about taking our money, not about actually giving us wisdom. And so we don't have lots of these old traditions. And that's a big reason why I go to these other places, to connect with these. But either way, that's where I'm at right now. And I had an experience last night for hours. I'm just on chat rooms and messaging people and things that I just don't feel good. And I was like, I really didn't want to bring this energy or this to Portugal. I'm so grateful that I didn't bring it to India. I'm so grateful because I've brought it in one form or another to a lot of the places that I've been, and it's brought this dark, negative energy into these incredible experiences. And that's just life. I'm not putting judgment on it, but that's not my ideal. And I really didn't want to bring it to Portugal, where I'm looking at, this next stage of life. I'm feeling very excited and very positive in many ways. I'm really feeling like, in many ways, I'm clicking, but when this dark sexuality is in there, it affects my whole life. My sleep, my diet, my mind state, my mood, my motivation, my hope, my hopelessness, the way that I impact others, the way, selflessness versus selfishness, very grasping, very craving, all of these things. And here I am, and I brought it to Portugal. And I'm like, all right, it's time to really go full in on this, really give it my direct focus. And I'm not sure yet what that means fully. I've got ideas. It may, mean getting involved with more courses and counseling and things from a more holistic, conscious, sex healthy place, not from like the Western psychological paradigm that doesn't really resonate with me. It may be really separating from life and society, which I've already been feeling anyway, as far as being done with the smartphone, the addict phone, and even potentially stepping into extended time in retreat in monastery or somewhere under wise teachers who are teaching tools that we know from thousands of years and countless people's experience do lead to deeper healing and transitioning beyond these sorts of things. So either way, that's what I've got going on right now, and I just wanted to get it out there. It's something that I've talked about a little bit, and I've got so many different things going on in life, and I don't want to be just sharing things that seem all positive and not fully true. And if I do share, I want it to be fully authentic and it to be as honest and transparent as it can be. This really assists me just to get it out. I've found one of the great tools that I have found with shadow or darkness or trauma or fear or anything in all areas, not just in sexuality. Shame. Anything that I find that I feel shame about or guilt about, I try to speak it aloud, first to myself, then to someone that I trust, and ultimately to get to this sort of place to where I speak it in public so that it doesn't have this control over me anymore. Because things that are in secret, I'm not a fan of secrets. I don't think that secrets are healthy. Maybe you can point out some examples of healthy secrets, but in a true healthy society, I don't think that secrets need to exist. And I think they bring this shame and this gloom, and we feel cut off from others because we feel like we're the only ones. And so I do this to help myself heal and release. I do it because I know that y'all love me and you support me to the best of your abilities. I do it to get beyond the fear of judgment and that sort of shame. And I also do it to share so that you may see that I have this challenge, and it may be a challenge that you have experienced, or you may have another challenge that you've experienced that you feel some sort of shame or hopelessness or guilt or whatever about. And hopefully me sharing can support you in releasing it as well. We continue being a team working together. Namaste, my friends. I love you.